if you're pouring an empty cup, you can't give anything. You can't give anything at all, really. So you have to fill your own cup, your own pitcher, before you can give to others. And so that's why self-care is so important. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mind, Body, Planet podcast. As always, it's me, Krystalynn Gier. Today we're going to be talking about self-care after the holidays. It's something that's been kind of weighing on me, and honestly, probably since like November, I've been really thinking about routines. And so I think this is just the perfect episode to talk about all of that. So we're going to be talking about what I'm going to call our like self-care starter pack for after the holidays. So I've got some practices that I recommend. There's some that I've been doing for a really long time. There's some that I've done a lot of research on that have great benefits. And so I'm going to recommend that we both do all of them together. I think we can kind of help hold each other accountable as far as self-care, because I feel like it is all too often that we can really get caught up in just the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and constantly, like if you're in a relationship, you have like a partner to look after. If you have a family, you have family members to look after. If you have a job, which I feel like most of us do, there's always job responsibilities and things like that that can really take away from self-care, and not all the time can we actually, dedicate the time that we need to or want to our self-care. But I think definitely 2024, this is our year and we can definitely make it happen. So hello, welcome back. This is the first episode of 2024. I took 2 weeks off just to kind of refresh, kind of get some cool content and some different like brainstorming and things like that up in the works and planning for the rest of this year. So it was a fun time. I was still working, but kind of doing a little bit more behind the scenes work instead of more, I don't know, in front of the camera work. And I'm glad I did it. It was fun. Like any other job, you would take PTO off and would never feel guilty. But I guess for some reason, because I care about this podcast so much, I care about my work that I do so much, I feel like there's a lot of value in it. And the more I do it, the better I get at it. And that's just a life lesson, honestly, really. I don't know. It's just like my baby. I don't want to neglect it or, make it feel like I'm neglecting you guys, for people who love to incorporate my content and this podcast, for example, into your routines every week. And so sometimes I feel a little guilty whenever I don't stick to my originally planned schedule, but there were fun stuff in the works. So I'm glad I did it. This week's faves. I'm not going to lie. I came into this and I don't have one. Like I have like kind of my bullet points for this episode, but I was like, I'll just wing it. Like I'll just say what it is. And honestly, I don't really have this week's fave right now. I guess if I had to pick something though, I've been really in this mode of self-reflection. I think something about December really makes me kind of reevaluate on my year, where I was a year prior, and kind of everything that's happened. It's pretty cool, pretty amazing. And the more that I think about it, I think I've talked about this in the past on previous episodes. I like to pick one word that is like my overarching word for the entire year. And it's not too late. If you haven't done this, you can still do it now. And basically, you use that word to kind of define what that year looks like, almost manifest what you want that year to look like. And so in the past, I've used words like abundance. I've used words like connection was actually my word for 2023. And you can, kind of look at the definition of these words and different synonyms for this word and figure out kind of what, if it really resonates with you, if it's really something that you think you want to incorporate into this 2024 year or the following year, whenever you choose to do this. I was really notorious for like doing resolutions and not actually sticking through with them because they were too specific. And so this is just a great way for me to kind of pick one word, and then that will really like impact and kind of flow with all of the other goals that I'm going to end up setting as far as like quarterly goals for. So I think I've decided that my 2024 word is growth. I think there's a lot of depth behind that word. And if you want me to get into it, let me know. I can get into it. I think the reflection part of December has really, really had me looking back on 2023 and where I've come and then where I want to grow to. And, what aspects of my life and who I am that I want to develop. And so that's kind of where the word growth came from. All of that to say, this week's favorite is I've just been really resetting. I don't know, like it's just like I just reset everything. And I don't know if it was just the month, if it was like the stars aligning, if it was like my astrology charts. I have no idea why, but I just feel like I had these like, I don't know, there's just this desire to kind of start over in a sense because it's a new year and not necessarily starting from scratch, but I've laid so much foundation work as far as my values go and this business and this podcast and talking with you guys every week. And I want to figure out ways that I can make that grow more. And so today actually was the first time I was able to sit down and do like a 10-minute meditation. And believe it or not, I know I feel like that sounds like kind of woo-woo-y, but there's a lot of research out there that says meditating is one of the best things that you can do for your health, your mental health, your physical health. It helps you realign and focus on what actually matters at hand. I think sometimes people get scared of meditation because when people talk about it feels like this kind of, oh wow, you have to spend like 1 hour, 2 hours meditating in silence. Like, what? That's crazy. And that's not who I am. You get nervous because you're like, wow, I can't stay focused on my breathing. And the whole point of meditation is to allow your mind to drift in whatever direction it chooses to drift, acknowledge it, and then come back to the space where you're meditating and you're focusing on your breathing and you're kind of grounding yourself. Anyways, I tried it today because it's just a beautiful day outside. I was sitting outside with my dogs and I was like, okay, let me give this thing a try. I loved it. Actually, afterwards, I felt really refreshed and was able to go inside. I whipped up a little snacky snacks. I got a little hungry, and I feel like it was a great way to kind of realign and almost restart and refresh. Anyways, so I guess if I had to pick my week's favorite would probably be that. Something about that moment just felt really recharging. All right, people, let's pop into the self-care starter pack chat. So what do you need? What do you need after the holidays? There's a hustle and bustle, there's constant stressors, and a lot of people have really big feelings during the holidays. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of like dynamics, especially with different families and friend groups. And if you're in a relationship, there's always that kind of intricate dynamic you have to navigate. And so oftentimes you kind of pop into January and you're exhausted because you spent the entire month of December and maybe even November with Thanksgiving holidays, just constantly feeling like you're going, you're traveling and you're buying gifts and maybe you're in debt or maybe you spend a little bit more money than you need to on gifts. And you hit January and you're absolutely exhausted and you may be looking at yourself and you're thinking like, what now? What am I supposed to do now? I am exhausted. I feel burnt out. I'm overwhelmed with my emotions. And I just feel like I spent my time off from work and school and now I'm getting back into it. And I don't even feel like I took any time off at all. So I have some self-care practices to help you recover and rejuvenate after the hectic holiday season. I've got them broken down. I kind of put them into like 5 different categories. And I want to know your thoughts. So if you feel like I'm missing something or if you feel like you want to add to this conversation, please do. I love it when you guys DM me. I love it when you guys like comment on content, comment on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, comment on YouTube. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of doing this is being able to create bigger conversations that we can continue to like learn and grow from. That is my goal for this space, is to create a safe space for all of us to learn and grow, to create a planet that is better for our minds, bodies, and planet. Number 1, prioritize your sleep. Easier said than done, I know. There is research on sleep and why it is so important and why we need at least like 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. And I also want to touch on like sleep training too, because that's another thing that I've learned is extremely important. So when we sleep, there's this stuff called gray matter in our brain. And it's basically like, think about plaque. Like, when you're little and you learn about plaque on your teeth and you have to brush your teeth to get rid of the plaque so you have healthy teeth. So gray matter is like plaque for your brain. And when you sleep, your body is able to process the plaque and be able to get rid of it. And that way you can have a healthier brain, less brain fog. In fact, there's been a lot of studies. The more you sleep, the more time your body has to be able to, I don't know if erase is the right word, but to clear whatever gray matter's in there, to be able to kind of process through it and keep your mind clear. There are studies that have been shown people later in life that don't get that much sleep often suffer from Alzheimer's and dementia. Prioritizing our sleep is number 1 thing, especially after running around in the holidays. Maybe you have craziness going on and you were traveling and you weren't sleeping in your own bed. And now you're finally home and you're finally able to be in your own bed. And you can finally get that quality sleep that you've been craving. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get enough restorative sleep to recharge our bodies and our mind. That's the first thing you can do. And again, I know that is easier said than done. So if you feel like you are always tired and you don't have a consistent schedule because you're going to bed midnight some nights, 9 p.m. some nights, 2 in the morning some nights, something that I would highly suggest is going to bed at the same time and really waking up at the same time. I think sometimes this is a little bit, there's something to be said about going to bed at 10 o'clock every night and waking up at 6 in the morning every day. If you really can get yourself into that habit and that schedule, it's going to do so much good for your body, and your body's going to be able to rely on that structure, so you're going to feel way more energized during the day. So the first thing that I can say for our self-care starter pack is to prioritize our sleep. It is so important to get good sleep. The second thing, and honestly, like I said, this kind of ties into my week's favorite, we're going to prioritize and practice mindfulness. And I'm not saying that meditation needs to become your thing right now, here, right now. I don't think that's the case. If meditation is not your thing, then maybe it's something as simple as journaling. Maybe it's just taking 1 to 2 minutes every day and doing intentional breathing exercises. Like those ones. My favorite one that I enjoy doing is you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, release for 6 seconds, I believe, and then hold for 4. So I think it's like a 4-4-4-6. But basically what you want to do here is you want to breathe in and exhale longer than you breathe in. You need to hold it. There's also a lot of research behind these breathing exercises and kind of grounding techniques. I believe it's called grounding if you want to Google it and look up some other ways to ground yourself and practice this type of mindfulness that is able to reset your nervous system. So that way your body is able to kind of focus on something else and calm you down and bring you to reality in the present moment. The other thing that I do, and this one especially I love doing at night or anytime where I am like in the car, or if I am, I don't know, where else would I do this? I've done this in the car, I've done this at restaurants, and it's just a great way to kind of acknowledge everything in your surroundings. You name 5 things that you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Those are just kind of like easy grounding techniques that you can take with you on your day-to-day. Like especially the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you can do that at any place, any situation, any surrounding. All it takes is just a few minutes of your time and your awareness to be able to kind of point out these things that you're seeing. And I always feel like it's a great way to just acknowledge and to appreciate things around me as well. And it also takes your mind off of anything that maybe you're like ruminating on or anything you're overwhelmed with. If this isn't your cup of tea for mindfulness, practicing mindfulness, there are other ways you can incorporate mindfulness into your day. Morning yoga, nightly stretches before bed, journaling is another big thing. Number 3 for our self-care starter pack, we're going to nourish our bodies. Holidays tends to be a lot of sugar, a lot of cookies, a lot of cakes, a lot of overeating, at least for me. I know I'm so bad at overeating because the food is so good and you really only get it a few times a year. And so during the holidays, I'm like, ooh, give me all of it. And then next thing I know, I'm completely stuffed and my stomach hurts because I ate way too much food. And so moving into our self-care after the holidays, we're going to be nourishing our bodies. So eating vegetables that maybe you've been kind of slacking on the last couple of weeks. Maybe consuming more protein is also super important. So for me, I don't eat meat. And so sometimes during the holidays, I eat a lot of vegetables. And so I kind of lack out on some of the protein that I need. So we're going to focus on consuming nutritious foods. That also means staying hydrated. I believe, and maybe it changes a little bit depending on your body composition, but we should all be drinking 1 gallon of water every single day. It's great for our skin. It's great for our health. It's going to make you feel more energized. Number 4, on the topic of bodies, we're going to move our bodies. The more physical activity that we can incorporate and that we actually enjoy doing, if we can find ways that move our body that we actually enjoy doing, it's going to release endorphins and it's going to boost our mood and make us feel better. I'm not saying, and maybe this is your New Year's resolution, and so your goal is to go to the gym more, totally fine. But if that's not you and you don't already have routines to move your body, this is a great way to practice some self-care. And sometimes when I hear people say move your body, I kind of roll my eyes because I'm like, wow, self-care, moving your body. You always hear it. It feels like something like a kind of easier said than done, which I feel like I've been saying that a lot for some of these because all of these are easier said than done. But really, if we want to prioritize our minds and our bodies and even our planet, we have to focus on self-care that is going to make us feel good so we can continue to get the work done that needs to get done, and so we can really recharge ourselves. If you're pouring an empty cup, you can't give anything. You can't give anything at all, really. So you have to fill your own cup, your own pitcher, before you can give to others. And so that's why self-care is so important. So move your body. That's step number 4. We're going to be moving our bodies. Okay? I don't care how you do it. If it's a walk in the morning, if it's a hot girl walk, I feel like those are so popular. If it's a walking pad, that's something that I got, and that's totally amazing. I totally recommend a walking pad for anybody that works from home and can afford it. The more that I'm able to move my body, the better that my body is able to respond. And even if that's just stretching, and that's something that I know I always reference our JJ episode. So we had an episode about hacking your health and fitness. So the 3 main pillars of fitness with Jonathan Jordan. It's one of the most life-changing episodes. Actually, there's so much from that I think about on my day-to-day life. I highly recommend you listening to that episode. And he talks about mobility is so important. So even if that's just stretching, if that is your form of movement and it's restorative and you enjoy doing it, then that's totally something that you can do. So number 4, we're moving our bodies. Okay, we're moving our bodies for a little bit of self-care. Number 5, this is my last one, but it's setting boundaries. Boundaries is something that we've touched so much on this podcast, and you may be annoyed with me by saying it now, but it's something that took me forever to learn. How to set boundaries, how to set healthy boundaries, what boundaries are mine versus what are boundaries that other people are trying to put onto me, and things like that. So boundaries are so important, especially for self-care. Again, if you're always pouring from an empty cup, you can't give anything. And boundaries are sometimes things you have to do in order to make sure that your cup stays filled and it's not completely drained by people out there who tend to drain your energy, who put you in a bad mood, who frustrate you, who irritate you, who stress you out, who annoy you. Maybe one of these days I'll have a mental health professional on and we can really dive deep into boundaries and what that means and how we can easily incorporate them, like what, steps and advice for that. So I'm manifesting that. I would love to talk about boundaries because I am passionate about them. In this new year, in this era, in this self-care era, learn to say no. If people want something from you and you're not ready, if you still feel so exhausted from the holidays, you can always say no. You can stay home. Make sure you're not filling your plate too much by overcommitting and basically making yourself feel super overwhelmed. Set your boundaries. You got this. Those are the things you need for your little self-care starter pack after the holidays. You can take each of these things, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to tie this up in a little bow here. We're going to prioritize sleep, practice mindfulness, nourish our bodies, move our bodies, and set boundaries. Those are the 5 things that you need to do. There are simple things that you can do within each of these pillars, each of these things that are really easy. You can start doing them today, really, and take care of yourself in this new year. Take care of yourself every day, all of the days. Really focus on leveling up your routines or refreshing and resetting your routines, which, speaking of which, if routines are something that you need help with, I actually just launched my very first digital product. It is a 5-day routine reset challenge, but this one I have on sale for $9.99 right now. And it's a 5-day challenge that goes to your email inbox to basically guide you through resetting and creating routines that are good for your mind, your body, and the planet. So every day I'm giving you tips. I'm giving you a little lesson a personal lesson that I've learned and why I am including those things. And then also kind of your challenge for the day. It's a really fun one. I spent a lot of time on it. I'm very, very happy with the way it turned out. They're all things that I truly love and stand by. And so if routines are something that you struggle with as far as setting them, or maybe you have some and you're trying to like create new habits and habit stack and things like that, totally recommend checking out my routine reset challenge to refresh and renew your routines. So remember that taking care of yourself is essential for your overall well-being. It's the way that you're able to allow yourself to show up for others, but you cannot show up for others if you do not show up for yourself. So if you make a commitment to yourself, if that commitment is to move your body, if it's to start saying no to things and stop being a yes man or whatever that is called, if you make commitments to yourself, you have to honor, respect, and uphold them. Oftentimes, when we make commitments to ourselves, these promises, these New Year's resolutions, and we don't end up following through with them, it's the reason that most times that we don't have a high self-confidence. And trust me, it'll make you feel better at the end of the day. It has helped my anxiety so much. It has helped my confidence. And really, like I said, growth is my personal word for 2024. And the more that I'm able to self-care and the more that we are able to create routines in our life that are intentional and beneficial and create these systems in our life that are easy to follow and easy to manage, the better we are off in the long run. I hope you guys had an amazing, wonderful holiday season. But guys, it is 2024. It is time to take care of ourselves. It's time to turn the page. You know, we got a year here, a whole fresh year. So what are you going to do with it? Okay, we have made it to good climate news. So excited to have you guys here today. Today's article is titled Converting Landfill Gas into Renewable Energy Sources. I'll link this in the show notes for anybody, but it's just really amazing to see. Like specifically, this article is talking about an engineering firm that is based in Pennsylvania, and they are able to take the gas, the methane gas that's typically emitted from landfills, which is the biggest reason why you should always compost. Go listen to our compost episode if you want to learn more about that. But they're able to take that gas and turn it into renewable energy sources. So pretty cool to see. It's an interesting article. It's in the show notes for anybody interested in reading it. As always, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. If you feel like this episode was really beneficial and you know somebody who could benefit from it, highly recommend dropping the link to them, sending this to them, telling them that they should listen to it. And if you really liked it, you can always rate us on whatever you're listening to. If it's YouTube, you can like it, you can comment, you can subscribe. If it's Spotify or Apple, you can give it a rating. And Apple, you can actually write on the rating, which is pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you would like to follow the podcast, you can follow at MindBodyPlanet on Instagram. You can follow me, Krystalynn Gier, on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And that's all I have for you guys. Happy freaking New Year, and we're back. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.